Today on Expert Showcase, we're going behind the episode that we just created with Ely Delaney, who has been teaching us about how not to lose 50% of our sales by failing to do 3 important things.
And welcome to Expert Showcase Behind the Episode. Right above me, we have our awesome guest from today, Ely Delaney. And over there, Mark, I did it twice in a row.
You got it right, yes.
Now we just have to release these episodes in order so that people will actually get that joke. But anyway, over here, we've got our incredible interviewer, Dr. Mark Kosman. We just got done creating an awesome episode. Awesome. I haven't used awesome in at least a week, Mark.
That's right. You haven't used awesome today.
We just got done creating an awesome episode. Eli is a fountain of information and a great connector, so you're going to want to stick around for that. But now, without any further ado, I'm going to throw it up to Mark so he can take away behind the episode, and I'll start taking my notes.
All right, so just to be clear, for both you, Eli, and for those who are new to the show, you and I are going to have a little bit of a chat about your background and your expertise, and as well as how you position and market yourself. While you're doing that, Chris is taking notes that the audience can actually see on screen, but you and I can't, so we have to behave, or he's going to say mean things about us, and they'll be giggling, so we don't want that.
All right, I'm good with that. Just out of curiosity, at Chris, you mentioned that you hadn't used the word awesome for a week. I'm assuming you haven't done one of these shows for a week.
Yeah,
is that correct?
Yeah, that is.
No, he's just been really trying to control himself.
Yeah, that is the inside joke, because we were recording episodes last week, and somehow we just said somehow awesome got. I mean, it was an awesome episode, but it kind of. I think it got a little overused by the end. I never know when to leave well enough alone. So anyway, yes, that's the inside joke there.
So Eli, tell us a little bit about how you came to focus on helping people with follow-up, with sales, with being better networkers. I mean, where does that come from in your world?
My background, initially my original background was in the rock and roll business. I was actually a stagehand, basically roadie. And so, how I got into that was through networking, but one of the things is that actually took me to Phoenix, Arizona, which is where I lived for 18 years. And I ended up starting my own business in web graphic design. When I started out, I had 2 clients. They were awesome. They were amazing, the best clients in the world. The problem is that was not enough to pay the bills, and I had to figure out how to get the word out there. And that was roughly 20 years ago. So we didn't have online training. We didn't have videos. We didn't have cool video interviews like we do, like what we're doing right now. None of this was even close. As a matter of fact, at the time we had, what I think, 33.6 baud modems had just come out, something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to figure out how to get clients. And the first thing I did was go to the bookstore and start buying books on marketing. And in that aspect, something came up, and to this day I still credit my mom for this, because I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure she's the one suggested I join a Chamber of Commerce. And so I went to the Chamber of Commerce. The chamber closest to me, got to know the marketing director there, and one of the things he told me, he said, anything with the Chamber of Commerce, there's a ton of stuff we'll go over, but here's the most important thing. You will get out of it what you put into it. The more you show up, the more active you are, the more engaged you are, and the more relationships you build, the better your results will be. And that I took to heart, and that's how I started networking, to the point where I was actually doing networking events at least one a day, every day of the week. And I was out connecting with people. I was going to ribbon cuttings and all kinds of stuff and building those relationships. And that grew that business from those 2 clients to giving me the point of tripling my business in under 6 months. I had paid for my chamber membership in the first month. Mm-hmm. In 6 months, I had tripled my business. In another 6 months, I tripled it again. And I realized networking was the key. That's what was working. By the time I actually stopped being part of that chamber, which was many, many years later, I had actually built over 200 websites myself, not including the point that I had actually opened up an office and hired 5 employees working for me. We were closing 3 to 5 contracts a week. I didn't count what they did. I counted just what I did in that. And it was because of networking. That's how I'd started. And so fast forward, now, I don't do websites anymore. I do a training. I teach people. I do conference or I do courses, I do consulting, coaching, different things in that aspect, and I still have clients that are web design clients that I've had for 15 years plus, but now I realize there's so many people that are not following up properly, so many people that are walking in the door of a networking event, whether it be a chamber of commerce or a conference that has 3,000 people, and they really don't know where to start. They're coming in with what I like to call the hunter mentality, which is they're going in for the kill, and which is not what you want. You want the farmer mentality, the farmer versus hunter. Farmer wants to tend the fields. They're going to nurture that for the long term, and it's going to produce more output for them. And so that's kind of my backstory of how this all happened. The networking is really, out of everything that I teach, it's my favorite. It's the thing that I'm the best at. I have so much fun with it. And it's amazing to see the results that the people that I get to work with get once they have those different mind shifts on how they go about networking.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, so good old-fashioned shoe leather, getting out to those networking events, but then having the actual skills to connect and speak, and that's really I'm going to really encourage people to stick around. We're going to show your episode at the end of this part, at the end of Chris wrapping us up after with this conversation. But that's exactly what this episode is about, is helping you have the right skills when you get to that networking event, and not just do that sales pitch to 80 people in the room and wonder why nobody wants to talk to you ever again or follow up with you because you're not having conversations.
Right.
So,
yeah,
absolutely. So the downside, of course, is that it requires the shoe leather and the time, and so it is a very powerful thing to do, and I highly recommend it to absolutely everyone. I go to tons of networking events. I run my own meetup group. Lots of things to get people in the room. What else do you do beyond the actual physical room to get the word out? I see a microphone sitting in front of you. I don't think that was just for today.
No, actually, I run my own podcast called Driving Your Marketing. I have for several years. As a matter of fact, that's how Chris and I met. He was a guest on my show. And so that's where this is a staple. It sits here all the time because I'm always doing interviews, recording with people, things like that. That's one of the ways that I use. And it's great because it's another one of those that, the topic of adding value, being a resource. We talked about that in our primary show. That's why I do the podcast. It's not because I'm doing a podcast so I can advertise stuff to sell. If I get clients from it, which I do, that's awesome, but that's not why I do it. I do it, number one, to network. I get to meet some of the coolest people in the world because of that. I mean, I would not be on this show right now if it wasn't for Chris being a guest on my show, however long ago that was. I don't even remember when it was, but that's how we met. And I've met some of the most amazing people in the world from that same situation where we've been able to help promote each other, help to send people each other's directions, even being a resource, helping people out in just conversation. Like one example is we use Infusionsoft for the back end of our system, and we actually do some beast. It really is. But we've been using it for 2007. And you're going to say something, Chris?
Well, I was just going to say, you want to go ahead and repeat that? We had a little bit of an audio interruption. We heard you at Infusionsoft, and then it kind of was, and then we heard beast of the system. So,
okay.
So we know Infusionsoft is a beast of the system. So, but there was
we missed the middle part.
But there was good meat between those two.
Well,
pieces
and
of bread.
really, okay. And that was a wonderful world of technology. So Infusionsoft is a beast. It's an amazing tool, but it's really hard to get your head around right at first. And I know a lot of people that have those problems. And so I get people on the show that are either just signed up for it or sometimes even have had it for a while and still don't get it or are thinking about it. And it comes up in conversation and they're like, oh, can you help me out with this? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. And so next thing I know, I get a client out of it. And that wasn't the point of the show,
right?
But that's what ends up happening. The other thing is that then I'm also doing these amazing interviews with great experts, just like what you guys are doing, and I share that out. So then other people end up finding me because of the podcast in general, Sometimes somebody says, hey, I was a guest on Eli's show, go check out the podcast. They hear somebody else's interview. So now that person is getting extra value, and my guest is getting extra value because they get in front of a new audience. And so everybody ends up winning about it, and none of it is about buy my stuff. And never once does that conversation come up. If it happens, awesome, but that's not the point behind it. And so I do a lot of stuff like that. The podcast is it's more of a hobby than anything else, but I do make money off of it, and it's not direct sales. It's because of the relationships and the networking that happens from it. And I do want to say something about networking that I think is really important. People tend to forget is that networking isn't just going to your local chamber of commerce and going to the same meetings with the same people, sitting at the same table, eating the same rubber chicken week after week after week. It can be, but it shouldn't be. Move around, meet new people. Don't go just to those. Go to conferences and seminars. If there's perfect example, Rich Dad. Robert Kiyosaki has his Rich Dad seminars. They come through town all the time. I go to those. I'm not interested in investing, but I go to those because I get to meet cool, like-minded people, and I get to actually, make connections. Big conferences and seminars, online, like what we're doing right now. Google Hangouts, Skype. Those are two of my favorite tools in the world. I'm meeting people all over the world just because somehow we're connected in a group on Facebook or on LinkedIn or something like that, and I reach out to them and say, hey, I think that it'd be really cool to chat with you for a couple of minutes. Would you be open to having a Skype chat next week? It's that easy. And then we have a face-to-face, just like what we're doing right now, but you can do it with somebody across the world. 2 weeks ago, I had it with a guy in Sydney, Australia. Exactly.
That's the beautiful thing. You're in Oregon right now. We're in the Philadelphia area. Neither one of us had to hop on a plane. Earlier today, we were visiting in Australia. Later today, we'll be in Singapore. A couple of days ago, we were in Spain. So it's amazing. We can now have this technology that allows us to have face-to-face conversations like this, and record them as well and create great content while doing it. So obviously you're speaking the same language that we speak. We love doing this. We're meeting all kinds of interesting people as well. You're out there, you're creating content, you've got the show, you're out there going to networking events. Chris, I'm going to flip this over to you now to try to make some sense of it all for us and bring it together. And no pressure, mind you. Just, I'm expecting deep and really pithy statements here, but no pressure.
Can I pontificate for a while, Mark?
Sure, yes.
Yeah. Another inside joke. See, for we got a new viewer. It's the pink couch. It's
a pink couch.
It's a guy on a pink couch, and it looks like his mullet in the '80s are calling. And I can say that because I have the picture of me with the '80s mullet. So fellow mulleters unite. It's okay. No, I don't really have a mullet right now. This is all really long. So some people have been asking me, they're saying, "Wait, don't you have a mullet right now?" No, this is all really long. And if I combed it out, it'd be cousin it at this point. So anyway, so if you didn't get the pontification, you gotta watch other episodes. That's the whole point. You gotta to watch it to get these inside jokes. So first of all, I loved having you on today, Eli. For those of you, anybody watching this, you need to stick around and watch Eli's episode. It's always interesting to interview people who have had an eerily similar path to yours through life when you've had a very interesting one. And you probably couldn't tell by the long hair, but yeah, I kind of did the band thing for a while back, many moons ago. I too, had done roadie and sound work. So it's and then, at probably the same time you were doing your web development business, I was designing websites. So we finally remember the days when you could stop coding in HTML and start even using front page and stuff like that. And people, you can always tell where people came into the development industry because they'll go front page, what's that? And it's okay, you're a newbie. But anyway, if you know nothing else but WordPress, it's okay. Welcome to the family. We forgive you. Yep. And yes, I remember those days of sitting up at 3 o'clock in the morning trying to download a 12K file over a 300 baud modem and praying nobody picked up the phone upstairs. So awesome. And the reason I bring all of this up is because once again, with Eli and as with other guests, Eli's found a passion and an overriding thing that runs through his journey through life, whether it was being a roadie for a rock band into, you know, web development business, then figuring out he likes to network. And for those of you who haven't been able to make that connection, if you like working with bands and if you like being in the music and the entertainment industry, you are naturally somebody who likes to talk to people and likes to interact with people, especially being, for those of you who don't, you know, have never known any roadies or anything, some of the best, most fun bunch of guys. And it's not just because most of them smoke. I can't even say that on camera. I forgot we're recording. I almost went down. Well, you're close enough that you did mention Denver. So
they didn't inhale though.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay. It's okay.
But no, and they're also some of the nicest give the shirt off your back type of guys. Because let's face it, nobody gets in to be a roadie for the money, right? You're not in it for the money when you're a roadie. You're in it for the fun and the experience, and you know, and okay, some of the benefits. So I digress at this point. The reason I wanted to bring that whole point up is for those of you watching who, you know, who want to increase your business, and if you're struggling, part of what you need to do is find that common thread throughout your entire life and then gravitate towards it. One of the things I do want to ask you, I know you create boatloads of content. You go out and, you know, you've got your marketing university, you do all this stuff. Have you yet created a piece of content specifically around the hunter versus farmer mentality?
It's actually in my course, but it is not publicly yet. I talk about it in some of my presentations. So yeah, I mean, I do have some of it in my presentations. Like when I speak, I do a lot of speaking gigs. I do have a pretty detailed piece of it inside of the networking course, which is networking like a rock star. You know, from that standpoint, and yeah, you're right. I should probably actually write an article or do a video on that specific mindset, because it amazes me how many times. I mean, I didn't make that up. Somebody else did. I don't know who it was. I heard it many years ago, probably 18 years ago, and it really stuck home for me. And I was like, okay, this is something that's really important. And I have yet to even find anybody else that creates that kind of analogy that makes so much sense. So I have incorporated that into my own trainings and saying this is what you need, and you use that hunter versus farmer mentality. People are like, oh, and like their eyes light up, they get it. And so it's great. So so yeah, I probably do need to do more. I do use it quite often inside of my presentations, and then of course inside of my training course.
Yeah, and that's great. And part of the reason I bring it up is because what we all as coaches and speakers fall into at certain points is we have a great breadth and even a depth of material, but there's nuggets inside of all the material that we have that if we just pulled out and did them as standalone pieces would add so much more value to people and would help build that know, like, and trust factor. Because let's face it, I mean, the hunter versus farmer mentality is one of the keys of being a successful networker. Because if you go in, you know, if you go in as a hunter, you know, you're barely going to catch any prey, so to speak. But if you go in as a farmer, your seeds are eventually going to grow, and you're going to be able to eat, you know, a whole lot longer, so to speak. So that was just one thing. And the other thing, I'm sure that it's a part of networking like a rock star. But have you ever created any modules specifically around how to have fun with networking?
I incorporate it as everything, as part of the entire course. So I share tidbits throughout, not something specific of, you know, okay, how do we have fun networking? I interject those pieces throughout the entire piece. That particular course, I have one section, which is going to end up actually being its own separate creature down the road, is the introvert survival guide to networking.
I was going to say that's perfect. Yeah.
That's the number one thing that I hear is people say, well, I don't like to be in a room and talk to people. I'm really shy. I get nervous. And introverts, I mean, I actually am an introvert. A lot of people don't realize that. Everything you guys see is faked. I've learned it over years of practice.
Me too.
Yeah. And so that's a big piece for me, is I share that out. And it is how do you make it all fun? Because if you're not having fun, get out, period. That's no matter what it is. And that's like my rule of life. When I had my business and my employees, every one of them, when I hired them, that was my number one rule. I said, okay, I want to offer you a position, but I have one rule above everything else that is most important, and you will memorize this. And they all kind of look at me like, okay. I'm like, if you're not having fun, get the hell out. That's it. Because if you're not having fun in what you do, you're not going to produce the best value you possibly can. And you're not going to be the best, you're not going to give the best service you can with a customer. You're not going to give the best service you can for the people around you, your family, your friends, things like that. And let's face it, even if you happen to be an employee listening to this, which, you know, we all have, employees are important. We have to have them, right? So if you're an employee and you're not happy in your job, find something else. Because I can guarantee you, if you are not happy, you are miserable and your boss doesn't like you being there. Okay? It's just, that is reality. And so I believe that you should be having fun in everything that you're doing. And I interjected in everything else. I don't really teach that as a specific creature. And maybe I should, because
I think you just did.
Think about it.
Well, and here's why I see here, and Mark, I'm going to wrap up my segment here in just 1 second. Here's why I suggest it. Mark and I talk about this all the time, whether it's in private or on some of these episodes, and we find not only ourselves but clients we work with and people we have on Expert Showcase, the time and time again, have a lot of great knowledge, but they can't see the forest through the trees, so to speak. Like Mark, we were talking yesterday, and I won't even go into it what it was, but we were discussing something that we wanted to change. You took it to somebody else, and they said, "Why don't you do this?" And we kind of both smacked ourselves in the head, went, "Duh!" Yeah, we should be.
Yeah.
So part of the reason I bring it up is because when I used to go to a lot of networking events, you know, you would hear the dread in people's voice when they were dreading. So they weren't even thinking about networking like a rock star. They were just dreading going to the networking event. So I could see a lot of value in a module of how to have fun. Because then you're speaking, as you know, Eli, then you're speaking to a core problem of theirs, and you're speaking to that core fear. And so those are just a couple things that I think that, you know, if they're, you know, with them not being their individual modules, would be great places for you to, you know, to create additional modules, be able to pull out, and then even funnel people into your overall, using the funnel people into your overall program. Make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's a good one, because for me and you're right, the forest through the trees mentality. It's like we always have that where we're too close to our own stuff, and I'm always sharing that with other people, because I say, okay, you know, you got your, say, even your 30-second commercial. Well, say your 30-second commercial to 3 people, and then just have them ask questions. Don't even answer them. Write them down. Write those questions down, because guess what? You don't realize how common that stuff is. To you, it's second nature. You don't think about it. Like for me, the whole concept of having fun while I'm networking, I mean, there's times where literally I've walked in the door with the mindset of a rock star. I walked into that event with the whole point of I'm here to be seen. And that sounds egotistical, but the whole point was to get me into the right mindset to have more fun, be more presentable, be more active and more animated, because again, the whole thing is I am an introvert, so I do shy away. I go hide in a corner somewhere, and I said, no, I'm a rock star. I'm going to rule this room. And I walked in the door, and I did it. And I walked out with probably 30, 40 amazing conversations that night. You know, there's times where I've gone to an event and never even walked in the door because I was bombarded by people. Well, that's a good place to be, especially as an introvert. If people come to you, you don't have to chase them out. It makes it much easier.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you now to get final thoughts from you and Eli before I tell people what they need to do next.
All right. Well, you know, I just want a final thought and then segue to the episode that people are going to see that we already, you know, created earlier, Eli. But I love the fact that you said walk out of that room with 30 or 40 great conversations, whereas a lot of other people walk out of that room with 30 or 40 business cards and no knowledge of the people who handed them the cards. So that's what you're going to learn if you stick around and watch Eli's episode. So, Eli, any closing, you know, words of wisdom before we have Chris wrap up this episode and then show your episode?
The number one thing, I'm going to leave one question, and I didn't say this on the episode, so I'm going to say this now. There is one question that I said highly, highly suggest, and I'm asking this of you too. Mm-hmm. If there's anything I can do to help you out, let me know. What can I do to help you? And for everybody listening, that question is the key. That will open up more doors, make you better relationships, build a better better long-term standing with people, leave an impression, and that one question can explode your business. What can I do to help you? So, with that, you guys know, if you can reach out to me anytime if you got any questions, you know I'm here for you.
Well, words of wisdom to move on with. Chris, wrap us up and let's get to more words of wisdom from Eli in his episode.
Sounds like a plan. So y'all want to stick around and make sure you watch Eli's episode so you can, have more fun with networking and increase your business. And that's what this is all about. For you coaches and consultants who are still watching, which if you're hearing my voice, you obviously still are, and you realize that being on an episode of Expert Showcase will give you a great piece of free marketing content that you can use. Yes, I did say free, that you can use however you want to push your business forward and to start building your visibility, credibility, and authority, or add to your visibility, credibility, and authority. Then you want to head over to expertshowcase.com and click on the big yellow apply button. Send us your application. If we feel you're a good fit for the show, we'll have you on as our next featured guest on the Expert Showcase. And finally, for those of you coaches and consultants watching who realize and who know that when you have your own internet talk show and you create content like this month after month, day after day, week after week, year after year, you're going to build your credibility, you're going to build your visibility, you're going to build your authority, you're going to become visible, credible, and be the authority in your niche to your ideal client. Then you want to head over to VideoContent.Agency, check out the services page, check out our visibility, our credibility, and authority packages, decide which one's right for you, get in contact with us, let's see if we're a good fit to work together, and we'll go from there. And now without any further ado, I'm going to roll the tape.
Today on Expert Showcase, Ely Delaney is our guest expert, and he wants you to know that you might be losing 50% of your sales by not following 3 easy steps. Eli, welcome. We're on opposite coasts, I guess. You're out in Oregon. Welcome to the show. Hope you're doing well today.
Oh, thanks so much, Mark. It's my pleasure to be here.
Well, help our audience out here. We have a lot of different guests, so I want to orient them to the knowledge that you're going to impart to me on their behalf. So what are we going to cover in today's episode?
We're going to talk about follow-up, because that's one of the things that I find, it amazes me how many times I meet people at networking events and conferences and seminars and, just doing business. I mean, even in the drive-through Starbucks, I've actually done business before. And it amazes me how many times I'll actually say, I want to hear more about your business. Here's my card. Give me a holler. Shoot me an email. And I never hear from them again. And it amazes me how much business is lost just because we don't follow up enough. And so that's what we're going to talk about.
Absolutely critical, and you're right, it ought to be obvious, doesn't happen. So we're going to cover 3 main things today to give people some takeaways. So add value first, I love that. Ask questions and become their trusted advisor. So let's walk through those a little bit, and yeah, follow-up is key. People talk about it all the time, but the talk is cheap, they don't walk the walk. So tell me a little bit about what you mean when you say add value up front.
The very first thing, I find, and I started my first business, which was a web and graphic design company, roughly about 20 years ago, and it amazes me how many people that I meet that literally they come in the door just with a, hey, what do you do? Oh, by the way, this is what I do, and this is what I have for sale, and this is the specials we have going on today, and they're just, pitch. And we don't, nobody likes to be sold to. We like to buy. We love to buy stuff. We're a consumerism world. We love to buy stuff. So we don't want somebody selling us. And that's where the problem comes in. And if you can just shift your mind a little bit and say, okay, how can I add value? The conversation about my products and services may come in. And if it is pseudo around that, like for me as an example, I'm a marketing guy. So I have all kinds of tips, tricks, resources, plugins for WordPress, all kinds of different things that I have buried in my head. that when somebody will talk to me about something that's going on, and I'm like, well, have you tried this? Try this plugin for your website. Or, I have one thing is a lot of times when I meet people, I'll ask them a little bit about who they are and what they do and things like that. I'm like, so what are you doing to market yourself right now? And of course I am leading up to potentially working with them, but they'll tell me what they're doing, and I'm like, have you tried this? And I'll give them a strategy, something that they can do right then and there, that they could take and walk away with it and never talk to me again if they wanted to. But I want to add that value up front and show them that I care about their success and care about what they do. Sometimes I'll find somebody who has it all together from that standpoint, and what they need is an electrician for their new build out that they're doing. And so I'm like, hey, you know what? Let me connect you with them. Or maybe a book. Just add value. Do something where you're giving first without saying anything about your own products and services. That's going to leave a lasting impression because they're used to getting pitched all the time. I've actually seen it where I will walk up to somebody and I can literally see in their eyes, if there was like a ticker tape going across their forehead, it would have two questions. Are you going to mug me? And are you going to sell me something? That's it.
I like it, yeah.
Literally. Yeah,
and so we want to. Which one is actually going to be worse for them, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing about it is, go back to, some of us have, if you know anything about NLP, use that whole concept of pattern interrupt. When you actually get to ask them questions about them and how can you, the things that you can do to add value to them instead of pitching them, that becomes a pattern interrupt, and they get actually confused. And they want to spend more time with you because you're being helpful instead of just trying to sell them your stuff.
Oh, it's great advice, Eli, and people think they're being time efficient by just jumping down the person's throat and going for the sale, but of course they don't have enough information. And following your lead here, if you would actually take the time and ask a few questions, get to know this person, build a little bit of a relationship, you might actually find that they really need your product, and you might be able to actually phrase it to them in the right way. So that's it's absolutely perfect.
Yeah, and one of the things with that too is it gives you the opportunity to find out if they're not a good prospect for you too. Because I actually had one time, it was so funny, I'm at an event, there's like 1,500 people at this event, a huge networking event in Phoenix one time, because I was there for 18 years. And this girl walks up to me, and she's got a booth, and she walks up to me and she goes, hey, how's it going? What's your name? I said, Eli, and shake hands and everything. She goes, I bet I could help you out. And she goes into this whole pitch, essentially, for lack of a better term, literally 5 minutes. I could swear this girl did not take a breath. And she's going on about how she can help me with my social media, and that she knows that she can help me eliminate all the confusion, and she'll just take care of it for me, and blah, blah, blah. And she went literally 5 minutes talking, and then she stops and goes, so what is it you do? Now, I run a training company teaching people marketing stuff. Social media is one of those things. So my response was, I teach people how to not have to hire people like you. And she literally, her face dropped. She's like, huh? And I'm like, yeah, actually, that's what I do. I teach people how to use social media so they don't have to worry about hiring somebody else to take care of it for them. Now, I did that to prove a point, and because I'm obnoxious, and so I had to throw it out there. But if she had stopped and asked questions about me first, she could have found a way to approach me from a standpoint of, so do you ever run into people who just, even though they get what you teach, they still just want somebody to do it for them? Because I do. Then we could have had a good relationship where I probably wouldn't use her services, but I might be willing to refer her out in that situation. But she had gone into pitch mode so hard that she pretty much burned the bridge just because of the fact that I was just waiting. I didn't know what to say. I'm like waiting for her to stop long enough so I could say, whoa, hold on a second. And she didn't. She was like nonstop.
Right. So now at this point, this conversation is all about her because it's not a conversation. It's a fire hose coming at you. Well, Eli, let's talk specifically about questions. I mean, how do you use questions? How do you teach people to use questions much more effectively, obviously, than this young lady was versed at doing?
The first thing that I recommend is make the conversation about them. Ask them questions. And the thing is, it's not just asking questions. It's like, okay, so how long have you been in business? And what got you into this business? That's a really big one that a lot of times people don't think. The how long have you been in business? That's typical. Everybody asks that question. But if you said, what got you into this business? And then you hear their passion of why they love what they do. And so that's where you can really start a conversation. And you make the conversation about them. Again, it's a conversation, not a dialogue, that you make the conversation about them to where you become this amazing listener. And everybody likes to talk about themselves. That's human nature. We all have that ego piece that wants to talk about how awesome we are. Let them. Ask them questions about, so what's your favorite thing about this, or what's the worst client you've ever dealt with? I mean, I'll ask little odd questions like that people don't normally see, but it causes a better engagement, and it brings out emotion, which people buy off of emotion. So if you can get them emotional one way or another, that's going to make a better conversation. They're going to get excited. It builds rapport where they're feeling more comfortable with you, and you become a great listener, which is great. One thing that I like to do with that is I also use all of that to kind of do a little bit of research and figure out, okay, is this going to be a good person as a potential client of mine? If they're not, then I can still have an amazing conversation with them and then shake hands, walk away, and never see them again if that's the case. But you've got to figure that out first. Ask lots of questions and make them oddball questions that'll cause a little bit more emotion and engagement with them.
Well, and I love that you also obviously mentioned being a good listener, because I know you've run into this, Eli, where someone has heard this concept of asking questions, but they're asking a barrage of they're doing an interrogation now, and all they're doing is waiting for the opportunity to then start the pitch because they're not actually listening to the answers to the questions, right? So I'm assuming that's not what you're advising. Yeah.
No, definitely. If you ask a question and when they respond, your answer or your response is you're doing it wrong. Because I've had that. I've had people, well, they start asking me questions, and as I answer, they just go They're waiting for that point. Right, they're looking for that spot, and I like to say this is the hunter mentality. They're waiting to go in for the kill. They're trying to figure out when that perfect time is for them to say, oh, I've got a great solution for that. You should come check out blah, 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 blah that I've got going on next week, and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So you've got to make it interactive, make it a conversation, and make it fun, and make it personal. You've got people buy from who they know, like, and trust. We've heard that, the KLT factor, we've heard that before. That phrase has been around since the dawn of time. The problem is that you've got to think about the logic of it. Those three words are in a very specific order for a very specific reason. So know, like, and trust. Well, I'm not going to trust somebody generally if I don't like them. There are cases where it can happen. Maybe your attorney, that could be a good exception. But generally, you have to like somebody before you're going to trust them. But in order to like somebody, you've got to get to know them. Mm-hmm. And that know, like, trust. You can't trust if you don't like, and you can't like if you don't know them. So think about those three words in that specific order and ask questions that are going to get people to really enjoy hanging out with you, enjoy the conversation. They're going to like your personality, which, by the way, people buy off of personality. Nobody cares what company you work for. I mean, think about how many real estate agents you know. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, just as a guess, Mark, how many real estate agents would you say you know off the top of your head?
Oh, I could give you a dozen at least, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So now if you were going to go buy a new house today, how many would you potentially sit down and talk to?
There are only two.
Exactly. And we're all in that situation. I know people who know literally hundreds. I'm one of them. I actually know over 100 real estate agents personally that I've hung out with because I network so much. Mm-hmm. And there are two that I would talk to. And that's because we have that know, like, and trust. So those are the type of things you need to do. That's why those questions are so important, and let people know that you really do care about them.
Well, and I think that's a great segue then to that trust factor. I mean, you talk about becoming the trusted advisor, and obviously that's where someone doing this right, asking the questions, is leading up to really finding a way to be helpful, not just with the one product and service that you're looking to get out of your inventory, right?
Right. Well, and that's the key, is that when you meet somebody, and this could be, like I said, I network all the time. I mean, networking is my thing. I'm a connector. So sometimes it's online, sometimes it's doing video interviews and conversations like this. I do a lot of panels, and sometimes it's going to a local chamber of commerce and everything in between. So when I sit down and I talk to somebody, or I'm even that first initial, hey, how's it going? I'm Eli, that first handshake, my brain is already going, okay, who is this person? What do they do? What do they need? And how can I help them with that? And so a lot of times I will immediately go, okay, I know somebody you need to talk to. Let me do an introduction for you. What I want you to do is, here's my card. I want you to email me tomorrow and remind me, because I will probably forget. That's just normal, okay? So I'm going to forget. But email me tomorrow, and I'm going to introduce you to them. I did that with somebody just 2 days ago, where another networker, he had a workshop. I went and checked out his workshop to see kind of where we might fit in together. He has some great materials. He's going to be doing a tour and doing some workshops in Denver. I know a couple of people in Denver who run a radio show. They're very good friends of mine, and I was like, you know what? You guys need to connect. So do me a favor, remind me, and I will connect you. So then that way, maybe they can help get some extra bodies in the door for your workshop.
Absolutely.
And I did that a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do I get anything out of that? Yeah. I get the satisfaction of helping two people.
And you get goodwill,
cool.
and you get
fun
to be a great resource, so that when I do, odds are in the context of that conversation, I have some clue of what you do as well. I might not need your service today, but now Eli's that guy that really helped me out with that realtor that I needed to help me sell my house. Well, odds. Eli's a helpful guy. He probably can help me out with his actual main business, can he?
Right, and that's the cool thing about it, is you let people know what your business is and how you can help them, but that's almost like an afterthought type of situation. You know, people know what I do. They know that I do training and coaching and all that kind of stuff, and I put it out there all the time, but my conversations are not about selling my products and services. My conversations are, how can I help you? Hey, by the way, I just read this really great book. You should check it out. Here is the link on Amazon for it, because this is the best book. I mean, a perfect example. I just finished up Me Inc. by Gene Simmons from KISS.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
An amazing book. I highly, highly recommend it. And I'm telling everybody. I mean, I'm telling you right now on this interview, go read the book, because it's such a great book. I'm hoping that you read the book and get value out of it. Do I get anything out of that? Not really, other than the satisfaction of knowing that I get to help you, and hopefully at some point, maybe that'll turn around and you'll have a chance to help me at some point. That'd be awesome. If not, that's okay.
Well, yeah, so it's building an honest, true, genuine relationship, and getting in that position of being a helpful connector, a helpful resource, a helpful piece of information. Well, now you are that trusted advisor. The other thing I think is so cool about that, Eli, is that when people do that right, when they're very good at just saying, they answer the question directly, yeah, this is what I do, and then they move on, it actually makes me want to know more about what they do, whereas if they answer the question and they keep going, it makes me want to start backing out of the room, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's good if you can, when somebody asks you the question of what you do, how can you flip it around as a benefit for them, to help them, instead of just say, you know, I'm a web designer, or I'm a landscaper, or I own a coffee shop, or anything like that. Turn it around. It's like, okay, so do you ever have places, times where you need to meet people for coffee and you're really tired of the standard big chain places? I've got a really cool coffee shop that I've got it designed specifically for people to come in and be able to hang out for a little bit and have meetings and things like that. And so now you shifted it a little bit in order to make it so it's a benefit to them.
Absolutely, yeah. Because let's face it. I mean, if you're trying to sell me something I don't need, then I'm never going to say yes. I mean, and you haven't taken the time to get to know what my issues are, what I need. If you did that and then you gave me a solution, I might say, wow, thank you, Eli. That's very helpful. Well, I am going to thank you, Eli, for all this great and helpful information. So I just want to do a quick recap, and then I want to tell people how to get in touch with you, because you are a valuable resource here. So we've been talking today on Expert Showcase with Ely Delaney, who's been telling us how we can, not lose our sales by failing to do these three important things. So we've been talking about the importance of adding value up front, making sure you're asking questions and listening to the answers so that you can get to our third point, which is become that trusted advisor, that resource, that person the person wants to talk to, so that when you do have the viable solution for them, they're more than happy to talk to you. So great stuff, Eli. Let me put my glasses on so I can see my notes and correctly tell people how to get in touch with you. So you have a website that is YMU, the letters, YMUrocks.com, and what you want to do is get in touch with Eli by going to YMUrocks.com/NFB. It's up on screen. I don't know why I have the need to spell these things out, which is where you're going to go to download the Network Follow-Up Blueprint. See how nifty that is, Network Follow-Up Blueprint, NFB. So get connected with Eli, get over to YMUrocks.com/NFB and get this blueprint, and then connect with Eli if you want to learn how to implement these things better in your world and become a better salesperson, a better marketer, a better business person, heck, a better relationship builder, right?
Yeah, definitely. And to throw it out there for anybody who wants to connect with me, reach out to me with the social media world. I am very, very accessible. I love connecting with people. So you can always find me online, and basically just shoot me a quick message, say, hey, I just heard you on with Mark's interview. I would love to talk with you. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
I would love to connect with any one of you.
See, a relationship builder at work here. So, Eli, thanks so much for being our expert guest today on Expert Showcase. It has been a great deal of fun, and I've learned a lot, and I hope our audience has as well.
Oh, thank you, Mark. It was my pleasure. I have a blast doing these.
And another great Expert Showcase episode. Chris, what should people do right now?
Yeah, if you're watching this and you're a coach or consultant, imagine what it would do for you and your business if you were a guest on Experts Showcase. And here's the best part. Other than possibly increasing your business, an appearance on Expert Showcase is free. We give you a copy of your episode so you can use as marketing collateral, and we give you a coaching session to go along with it to tell you how you can best market your episode and other tips and tricks about your business. So what you want to do is head on over to expertshowcase.com, click on the big yellow apply button, and apply to be our next featured guest on the Expert Showcase. Now, if you're a coach or consultant and you've already imagined what having your own internet talk show will do for you, then we want you to head to VideoContent.Agency and check us out, check our packages out, and get in contact with us. Let's see if we're a good fit, and let's see if we're the ones to produce you and make you the next star and have your own internet talk show. And until next time, Mark, anything else?
I couldn't have said it any better, so just do what he said.